choice of entrance music. I don't know about you all, but I would very much love to live in the world that Queen Bee has imagined for us. So here's to midterm elections. Please vote. I'm Ashley Dunn-Gatterdam. I'm a senior consultant at Capacity Interactive. If my voice sounds vaguely familiar to you, I had the great pleasure a couple of weeks ago of interviewing Eric for his own podcast. That was also really nerve-wracking and fun. This is my third boot camp as a member of the team here, but 4 years ago, I was the Associate Director of Marketing at Lincoln Center Theater, sitting right where you all are. Now I can see you, Tom O'Connor. And I had a love-hate relationship with email. I never seemed to have enough time for it while managing the website and our social channels and hanging 3 sheets in the lobby and scraping gum off the sidewalk outside the front of the theater. Does that sound familiar? And all of that while staying on top of my own seemingly bottomless inbox. Does this look familiar? Maybe that person will raise their hand and out themselves. I am an inbox zero kind of gal, so this is not my number. But how many of you stepped out during the break to check your email to keep your Monday morning from looking like this? Yes. So let's play a little game. I know that in a room of 400 people, there are a lot of you, by the way, that there is somebody who can beat my colleague's number. So if you don't mind a little public shame and humiliation, share a screenshot in the app between now and the end of lunch. And when we come back, we will give away a Google Chromecast and a cardboard to the person with the most unread emails. Today, being the biggest loser can make you a winner. That is your number to beat. Okay. So I feel your pain. That is why today we are not going to shoot for the moon. This is not going to be the most inspiring email presentation you have ever seen with a bunch of things in it that you cannot do. We are going to try to find 1 to 2 things to start doing a little bit better next week and maybe 1 or 2 to be inspired for the future. The title of this session is borrowed from Seth Godin, author of Permission Marketing and keynote speaker at the inaugural boot camp. Internally at CI, we often refer to him as Capacity Interactive's personal Jesus. I think that Colleen Dillenschneider might have usurped that throne yesterday. He describes permission marketing as the privilege, not the right, of delivering anticipated, personal, and relevant messages to the people who actually want to get them. This boils down to a pretty basic idea. Treating people with respect is the best way to earn their attention, and with nearly 500 scripted shows on television right now, attention has become a really precious commodity. So this is our agenda for today. I can't possibly cover everything that you need to know about email in an hour, so we're going to spend the bulk of our time really on number 2, how to get a little bit better at sending anticipated, personal, and relevant emails. Again, remember that everything is incremental, so how can you do 1%, 5% better? I'm trying to have my Jennifer coaching voice here. I know that I'm the last thing between you and lunch, and no one likes a hungry marketer. So I promise to stay on schedule and try to leave some time at the end for questions, but we have a lot to cover. Okay, so first up, let's address the ongoing rumors that email as a channel is dying or dead. We've been hearing this for at least the last decade, with the general idea being that social networks have fundamentally changed how we communicate and will eventually replace email for good. And while it's true that marketers like us, and especially spammers, tried really hard to kill it, email has actually gotten better as personalization, segmentation, and measurement tools have gotten more sophisticated. And thank you, Luke, the rise in mobile means that our inboxes are always at our fingertips, so we are checking email more than ever before. Luke promised me that he would bomb his presentation because I had to follow him, so I call fake news. Okay, in fact, we spend 5.4 hours a day checking email currently. These are the 2017 numbers. That is nearly 40 hours a week and 2,000 hours a year. Who's feeling real bad about all the time on their phones right now? That is a 27% decrease from 2016, with declines across both personal and work accounts. That's the difference between the dark blue and light blue there that you see. But those 2016 numbers, that really huge one, was actually a 17% increase over 2015. So we are certainly staying in a range, and we are as obsessed with email as ever, as Eric mentioned about his own personal weekend experiences. There are 3.7 billion emails users worldwide. That is approximately half the current worldwide population. And those users are sending and receiving 269 billion emails per day. That number is expected to grow at an annual rate of 4.4% over the next 4 years. And that is because email is still, Pause for laughter. Email is still the most widely adopted form of digital communication. So your mom might not be on Snapchat, but she definitely uses email. And that's partly because all of those social networks require users to have an email address, as well as most of our e-commerce transactions. And certainly all of us in this room have an email address for work. That is my mom on the right, by the way. She does have a Gmail address, and she did almost join Snapchat after I introduced her to this last Christmas. Okay. So according to the Adobe Consumer Email Survey Report for 2017, 61% of us still prefer to receive offers from brands via email. That's a 24% increase over 2016, which is pretty substantial. That, combined with the low cost of this channel, is why email consistently delivers the highest ROI for marketers. This is where you are reaching people who already care about your organization and have told you that they want to hear from you. We hear this all the time, right? My nephew is on Snapchat, and my niece is only on Instagram. And yes, about 75% of American teens, ages 13 to 17, primarily use Instagram and Snapchat, but really spend the majority of their days texting. Who in here has a teenager? Can attest to that. So if the majority of your ticket buyers are 13 to 17-year-olds, I don't mind if you spend the rest of the session checking your email. If not, let's talk about a demographic that actually matters. The dreaded millennial. I'm at the top end of this, so I feel like I've earned the right to say that. We're all guilty of checking email in all of these situations, but millennials are far more likely than any other age group to check email while watching television, laying in bed, in a face-to-face conversation. And worst of them all, while driving. If you are one of the 23% of people checking your inbox behind the wheel, please stop doing that. Thank you. I just moved to Jersey, so I drive a car again, and it's terrifying. So all these figures from the Adobe report are from surveys of United States consumers, irrespective of industry. So let's look at some numbers that are actually really important to us. This summer, Capacity Interactive, in partnership with Wolf Brown and about 60 organizations, conducted a media usage survey of 27,000 live event ticket buyers. You're going to hear much more about that from Eric Gensler and Alan Brown after we come back from lunch. But when asked the question, how do you regularly hear about upcoming performances? 87% of arts buyers chose email from options that included print ads, direct mail, television, social media, and more. That was far more than any other channel that was listed as an option, and it was consistent across all age groups in a range from 82 to 88%. Ages are across the bottom, by the way. Honestly, even for people like us who believe in the power of email, this was kind of shocking. It was the only channel in the whole study that actually had a really unified response like this. All the other channels were really divided in their adoption by age group. If you're excited about this, I promise you there's an entire hour coming on these stats after we return from the break. Okay, so just to further reinforce the importance of email to our organizations, I'm going to highlight one in particular. Last summer, we were hired to conduct an email audit for the National Ballet of Canada. Where are you? That is a brilliant and lovely team, and I cannot say enough amazing things about my experience working with them over the last couple of years. Thank you in advance for letting me, oops, I knew I was going to do that at least once, for letting me use all of your data and this beautiful photo in our presentation. So a few of the learnings from that audit are sprinkled throughout my presentation, including this one. The discovery that transactions driven by email made up about 11% of their online revenue. Now, quick caveat about this, and thankfully I am following two different conversations about attribution. So for those of you not familiar with using Google Analytics to measure campaign data, this is not typically the way that we do that for like Facebook and display and search. We are using conversion tracking from those platforms in order to measure click-through and view-through activity. But in this case for email, I am looking at Google Analytics as my just understanding of how much of an impact email had on their ticket sales over the course of 2 fiscal years. Most of what I'm showing you here is from fiscal year 16, by the way. So Google Analytics is a clickstream data only, and this chart that you're seeing right here is using a last-click attribution model. So all the revenue reported here is from users who clicked through from that channel and then transacted in that same session. As such, that ends up attributing a rather disproportionate amount of revenue to organic search, obviously that huge column on the left, as that is just much more likely to be our final touch point. Remember in Kathleen's session we were talking about that funnel? So in all that top and middle funnel areas where all of our other marketing is happening, and once people have gotten down to the bottom, they come back and they're really searching for exactly what they are looking to buy at that point. So organic search in your analytics is really going to end up taking a lot of that credit most of the time. So when we zoom out just a teeny bit and use the attribution modeling in Google Analytics, we can see that email plays an important role as an assist in the conversion path, even when it isn't the final interaction. Remember, though, that this is still looking only at click-through data, so it doesn't include users who opened an email but did not click on it and came to the website from some other channel before transacting. Again, most often, organic or paid search on the previous slide. So we can actually assume that this percentage is much higher if we could look at email impressions in the conversion path. And we've actually seen it go as high as 40 to 60% for other organizations. It also has a lot to do with how much you're doing in all of those other channels throughout the year. Just don't want you to feel bad for Canada here. Okay, so we can all agree that email is important, yes? So when asked the question in our benchmark study last year, how effectively do you think you're segmenting your emails? Only 17% of you felt that you were doing this extremely effectively. Segmentation is the key to anticipated, personal, and relevant emails. So I'll assume that about 83% of you in this room think that there is room for improvement in your email efforts. Nod your head if that is true. Okay. So let's talk about how to do it incrementally better. eConsultancy asked brand-side marketers earlier this year, looking ahead 5 years, what do you think the single biggest change to marketing will be? I had to beg forgiveness from Eric to use the very off-brown word cloud from that study in my presentation, but I think it's really no big surprise what sticks out. Personalization, content, data, relevancy, and automation. If anybody else has been paying attention, I think I've heard the word relevant and relevancy about 100 times in the last day and a half. These are really what our priorities are. So how do we start affecting change in those areas? The first step is by asking yourself if that next e-blast is anticipated, personal, and relevant. Let's break this down and make that really easy. Are they looking forward to hearing from you? Is the message specifically for them? And is it about something that they're interested in? I'm going to pause because I see a lot of cameras out. Cameras, iPhones. I'm also 100-year-olds on the inside. Okay, I have to move on. I have a lot. Okay, side note. Those are Capacity Interactive team members laughing. One of the very first things that I learned at Capacity is that Eric hates the word e-blast, and for good reason. If we think, who clapped? Do that again. If we think of our traditional e-blasts as a fire hose, I like to say that what we really want to be aiming for is something more along the lines of a water pick. I'm going to walk through some examples of anticipated, personal, and relevant emails that are most definitely not e-blasts. So in that very first bucket, the most obvious of them all is the welcome email. So email is a little like dating. I'm not the first person to use this reference in the last 2 days. You ask for someone to give you permission to contact them, and then you start a journey of keeping that permission with the hopes of an intimate and lasting connection. So if I've just given you my email address from a contact form on your website, I am definitely looking forward to hearing from you, and it is important that you don't make me wait too long for that. The stats speak for themselves here. 74% of people expect to receive a welcome email right when they subscribe, 74%. This actually happened to me a couple of weeks ago. I received a series of emails that I was convinced were spam, and when I went to unsubscribe, I realized that I just hadn't recognized the sender, and it turned out that I was a list I had signed up for at some point while reading a New York Times article on personal finance or who knows what. But the sender had taken 4 to 5 weeks to send me that first email, and by the time I received it, I had lost interest and forgotten that I signed up. Goldfish. So because these are highly anticipated emails, they tend to see very strong engagement, 4 times the open rate and 5 times the click-through rate of other mailings. But more importantly, a 33% increase in long-term engagement from consumers who receive a welcome email compared to those who don't. We just have to say hello. The real-time welcome emails see 10 times the transaction rates and revenue over batched welcome mailings, and that really reinforces the need to do this promptly and to do it well. Inspire and delight. This has been in a couple presentations too. It's like literally what we do as arts organizations. It's not likely that this is their very first interaction with your organization, as we tend to collect leads from a little bit farther down the funnel, but it could be the first time that they are hearing from you as an organization directly to them as an individual, and you really want to set the stage for that relationship. It should not look like this. This was the first email that I received after providing my email address and name to a major arts organization in New York City. So for those of you with small budgets, the rest of them are doing it too. I won't say which one, as I don't think that this situation is unique to them. It was anticipated and certainly relevant, but it is the opposite of inspiring and delightful. It looks like I signed up for online banking. I recognize that sometimes we are at the mercy of our technology and that there is only so much that can be customized here, but the bigger problem is that I joined this list in that organization's off season and I didn't hear from them again for 3 months. So how could this have been incrementally better? Tell me when I'm going to receive my first real email from you and how frequently you're going to communicate with me. This really helps set expectations so that I can continue to anticipate your emails. Notice in this example above that heart, there's a date field that is dynamically populating the next weekly digest I'm going to receive based on when I joined. I'm not on all these lists, by the way. I collected all these screenshots from my team members, just so you don't think I'm getting thousands of emails a day. Second, maybe I signed up to find out when tickets go on sale and you have a really complicated e-commerce site, or I am a single ticket buyer who just bought Flex passes for the first time. Help me get started. Help me understand how to use that. I love this example from Ancestry.com. Oh, good. I was worried that was going to be really blurry. The visual mimics the accordion navigation of their website, which is just nice. It tells me exactly what I need to do next. It explains a really important functionality of their website in just 2 sentences. And my favorite feature of all, estimated time to complete that is 4 minutes. So it's telling me if I click through right now and I have 4 minutes because I'm in the middle of something, maybe driving, and I have 4 minutes at a stoplight to complete that. But if I don't, because I'm maybe driving, that I can go, oh, right, when I come back to that email, that's going to take me 4 minutes to complete that activity so I can hang on to that one for later. OK, this one is so important. We are writing to people who have, in their way, said that they want to be part of our organization, part of our community. They are arts lovers and possibly creators. It's why most of us got into this business in the first place. So the way that we communicate with them should be the way that we would a friend with shared interests. OK, this doesn't have to be super complicated. Thinking back to that first bad example, it is possible to make a good first impression, even if you don't have the resources to create a beautiful welcome email. In fact, this is a great way to simplify if you're focusing all of your efforts on better segmentation. This example from the skim is friendly. It sounds like it comes from a human being. I don't know if anybody can read any of that. It says, hi, and welcome to the Skim Life. Here's how it's going to work. We'll meet you back here in your inbox bright and early tomorrow morning. P.S. If it's a Friday or a weekend, you'll get the skim on Monday. Like, hello, setting expectations. Can't wait, here's the most recent skim, so it gives me access to a piece of content, which is literally the reason why I signed up for this. We'll wake up with you Monday through Friday, but we're a company that respects brunch, so we won't be with you on Saturday and Sunday. Like, come on, this is not that hard. Notice, by the way, the huge unsubscribe button at the bottom. It says, sigh, if you must leave us, you can unsubscribe here. Most of us bury that in size 5 font in the footer of our emails, hoping that nobody will notice. But Skim is working so hard to keep earning the permission that I have granted them that they are making it very easy for me to opt out if they fail to do that. The worst thing that you can do once you have successfully said hello is to go radio silent. So one situation we see a lot is somebody purchases a ticket to an organization, and then they either don't hear from them for another couple of weeks, or they start receiving a whole bunch of unsolicited emails just because that's what's up next in the email calendar. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Yes, I was guilty of this too. So what can we do? First is sit down and brainstorm some of the ways that someone new gets on your list, and then map out that ideal cascade of communication they should receive based on that first engagement. So this is literally just one example. Let's say I'm a new to file buyer of the Lord of the Rings concert. This is something that I would buy, by the way. The first thing I'm most likely to get is a transactional thank you email confirmation. Still, could we try to add some of that like friendly language from that skim example on the previous slide? Hopefully the next thing that I get is not an email trying to sell me a ticket to an upcoming production. Maybe it is a personalized pre-show, what to expect on your visit to Middle Earth. Use language that is familiar to me. Following the show, it'd be great to send me some post-show 70% content. I'll talk a little bit later about what we mean by 70%. Michael Barber actually had an example of this in his presentation from Denver yesterday, which was great. Curated Spotify playlist of composers you might like. I work with a lot of symphonies and orchestras, and they all feel so strapped for content because they're not dance organizations and museums and don't have a lot of visual assets, but there is a treasure trove of like literally free information out there for you on Spotify. All you have to do is do the hard work. And then the next thing that I might get is a hand-selected list of other concerts that I might enjoy. Again, really thinking super strategically about what the things are that I'm likely to be interested in next based on the fact that the very first thing that I saw at your symphony was Lord of the Rings in concert. That's super specific. Okay, it's time to get personal. We've made it past those first few dates, and it's going really well. And now it's time to prove how well you're getting to know this person. Email is one of the only pieces of marketing, other than direct mail and phone calls, which obviously have a ton of overhead, that can be truly personalized. You cannot promote a post into my newsfeed that says, hey, Ashley, nor can you force it to show up there in the first place when you want it to, and to stay there all day until I engage with it. I love social, by the way, so I'm just also in love with email. Personalization tactics can run the gamut from something as simple as personalized greetings or a subject line all the way to real-time cross-channel behavioral triggers. But just the bare minimum can get you this. That 29% is looking across all industries, but it goes as high as 40% when you look at travel or consumer products and services. I'd argue that we probably sort of fall somewhere in that bucket. Just try not to do this. Wah, wah. Been there, done that. Shit happens, right? If you do send an email with a merge field problem, just follow up with an oops. There's people on the other end of that inbox. Personalization doesn't just mean knowing and using my name. It's sending me emails that are specifically for me. This email from the head of customer happiness, what a great job title, at Urban Stems really does make me happy. It's friendly, it's simple, it takes advantage of a really cheap asset, an iPhone photo of the delivery, so I can have total confidence that that arrived on time. This is really telling me that they care about my entire customer experience from purchase to delivery. This is easy to do. Another great example from the skim. This email makes me feel like an individual. Okay, again. Number of mornings spent together, 571. We've spent a lot of time together. It's clear that this is serious. It's so cute. It has me feeling nostalgic about my engagement with a news aggregator. Imagine if this was reminding me of how much I had donated to an organization over the years, or the number of great productions that I had seen, maybe even one or two experiences with family or friends that I had forgotten about. Remember how important that part is in Colleen's presentation from yesterday? This kind of thing is going to require more and more data points to personalize communication that will drive user engagement. And this kind of intelligent content, done with the help of a company like Movable Ink. Has anybody worked with them? Couple, great. They are great partners. They also have an excellent blog. I stole a lot of stats from that for this presentation, so I highly recommend it. So they can be a really great partner in helping do something like this. It may seem like pie in the sky to do this sort of thing, right? That information is obviously like dynamically populated intelligent content based on my actual sign-up date and how many days have passed since then. That's not something that we're necessarily going to accomplish on our own while sending one-to-one emails. So this is certainly not the place that I would be starting, but it's not impossible, and we have to daydream a little bit. I hope if you have learned one thing so far, it's don't say. Thank you. This is about trying to shift our energy from forcing people to care about our agenda when and where we want them to anticipating their needs and desires and standing out amidst all the noise in their inbox. And this is why we see continued growth in the average open rates of triggered emails from 2015 to 2016, while it remained fairly flat from blast emails. This is another slide from our benchmark study. You can download that off our website. You can also sign up for our email list, and then we'll send it to you. Looking back at the results from the National Bank of Canada email audit, that gap was even larger, though most of their triggered email content was pre- and post-show emails, which tend to have exceptionally high engagement rates for obvious reasons. Notice that their open rate for triggered emails is 62% average throughout the year. That's pretty amazing. So triggered emails really check that box of relevancy as they are based on data that I've provided to your organization or that you've gleaned about me from my behavior. Pre- and post-show emails are the most obvious of those, but let's talk about some others. Welcome email cascade, don't stop at hello. Emails based on site behavior, including abandoned cart. Imagine if I was looking at the subscription benefits on your website and you could trigger an email to me, asking me if I had any additional questions, or I had just clicked to download a PDF of a plan giving form, and you could have your development office pick up the phone and call me. Thank you emails to first-time single ticket buyers, subscribers, or donors. Do you remember yesterday that Colleen was talking about? This is the single biggest reason that a previous donor did not repeat donate in the 24 months following their first donation. We just have to say thank you. We suck at this, and I kind of don't know why. We spend so much time and energy trying to get people in the door for the very first time. We have to start working harder at doing the things that it takes to get them back. Okay, birthdays. We literally all have one. Thank you emails to frequent attendees and long-time subscribers on special anniversaries. Think of the last time that a brand did this with you and how that made you feel. Re-engagement emails after long periods of email non-engagement or purchase inactivity, trying to sort of suss out why that person has kind of left your universe. And personalized fundraising appeals triggered 1 year after a previous gift. So instead of just sending out your massive end-of-year e-blast, if I'm always a person who has donated to your organization in October or November, because that's just when I do all of my end-of-year giving, don't wait until December to ask me that. And then the inverse is also true. Don't send it when I'm not in a place that I'm ready to do that. If you know that every year, year over year, I give all of my money on December 15th. I do that, by the way. Okay. If you've ever heard Capacity talk about social content, you've seen a version of this slide before showing that sweet spot between what's happening in the world and what's happening in your organization. This applies to email too, but it can be more personal here because we literally can have one-to-one communication. Good example, you have a show to sell. It is my birthday next month. It is, in fact, my birthday next month. So if you were to send me right now a birthday greeting and or an offer, I might take advantage of that or send it to my husband to take advantage of it for me for my birthday to an upcoming production. Okay, one really good question to ask yourself is, what am I interested in based on my recent behavior with your organization? This is how you're going to guarantee relevancy. I took the Gretchen Rubin 4 Tendencies quiz recently. Has anyone taken that? I'm looking at Jackie. Of course, it required an email, as any good lead collection activity would, and I received an offer about a week later to read the first chapter of her book for free. That's a really natural second touch point based on my first engagement with her website. Much to the surprise of my colleagues, by the way, it turns out that I am an obliger, which is why I am standing up here in a new pair of heels right now. Okay. Again, super important. I feel like you need to intro every slide this way. Make sure that your first email to a new lead is content they signed up for. If I've just signed up for your list, I'm interested in the things that you promised me. In this case, news, offers, video content, and information about your dancers and productions. In other words, I did not sign up for some of those other things that we are all institutionally obligated to send, like fundraising appeals or information about your classes. In National Bank of Canada's email audit, we found that, and this is in, again, fiscal year 16, that those emails combined made up just 17% of all emails that they sent, and 27% of all unsubscribes. That is a disproportionate and unacceptable ratio. It's nearly 3,000 new leads lost in the course of a single fiscal year that National Bank of Canada cannot contact ever again. This is not to say that you cannot use email for fundraising. In fact, you absolutely should. But this sort of thing happens all of the time, and it's partly because of silos in organizations. For example, when I was at LCT, we used to send out these huge fundraising emails to our full lists. It was like the one time to use the whole damn bucket without segmenting or suppressing based on their recent behavior. So if someone happened to join that list on December 27th, the very first thing that they could be getting from us is an ask, simply because of bad timing. And timing is everything. Donors Choose is one of my favorite fundraising organizations, so you will see them again later in the presentation. They are exceptional communicators, like literally just give a gift there so that you can be on the receiving end of these emails. They always seem to ask me for money at exactly the right moment. This one actually triggered me to give a gift on my birthday to the teacher whose birthday that I shared, who's mentioned in the PS of this email. So cute. Notice that stat, by the way. If you're going to discount anyway, this is a great way to increase conversion rates on those offers. Abandoned cart emails are one of the most relevant emails that you can send. After all, nobody is more ready to buy your show than someone who puts that show into their shopping cart. But nearly 68% of online shoppers abandon their cart. There's a lot of reasons. Many of them are not mobile friendly. So sending a friendly reminder of the items that they've left behind can help you capture some of that lost revenue. I've heard pushback before from organizations who think that abandoned cart emails feel too much like retail. So I've intentionally shown a cheeky and pretty simple example here from an arts organization. Also, this is something that retail has been doing for a very long time and way better than us, and I don't know why we wouldn't be trying to do that well. This is a great email from ZocDoc. It acknowledges that a search was abandoned on their website, and it tries to be proactive to address the reasons. So what's wrong? Search by symptom. Tell us what insurance you have. Are you stuck at work? Don't love travel. It's trying to preemptively see if they can help solve a problem that I wasn't able to solve while I was on the website. Again, some of us really do still have terrible mobile experiences. So if I abandon a cart on my mobile device, it's actually helpful, not creepy, to send me an email with a huge button that I can just tap to call the box office and complete that transaction. Okay, so it's easy to stay in that sweet spot of what matters to you and what matters to me if you can set up a beautiful, triggered, and highly segmented email strategy across your whole organization. But assuming that we're not going to accomplish that on Monday, let's talk about some fun baby steps towards relevancy. 1, simply acknowledge what's happening in the world. Use it as a chance to connect the dots to your programming. 75 degrees in October, send me 10 ways to stay cool, which is really helpful if, like me, you've never been cool. Holidays, pretty obvious one. We've all gotten pretty good at doing this on social. Capacity has even rolled out a content calendar so you don't miss things like today's really special holiday, World Statistics Day. Break out the party cake. Email is a great place to do this, but just remember that the competition for attention on these holidays is fierce. So don't send me an email on Earth Day without a gorgeous and inspiring picture of our planet. Sorry, American Museum of Natural History. I did not renew. Somehow, Seamless managed to connect the dots between food delivery and Broadway. It's pretty funny. Turns out that the cast and crew of Hamilton ordered curry puffs 528% more often than the rest of New York City. Who knew? You can't avoid the obvious on election night. Delivery.com knew that we were all going to be glued to our televisions or hanging out at viewing parties, which made it a really relevant time to encourage pre-orders for alcohol. If Seamless was smart, they would have triggered an email later that night to send us comfort food for the next morning. Okay. Relevancy requires a certain amount of flexibility in your email efforts and your calendars so that you can be part of the conversation happening in our news feeds and in our communities and not deaf to it. In a week when Trump rolls back access to affordable contraceptives in the United States, you're damn right I'm going to open an email with birth control in the subject line. I'm not going to get through the rest of this slide without crying. And in one where he announces a transgender ban in the military or any other attack on our progress, I will literally throw my money at any arts organization brave enough to create opportunities for women, people of color, the LGBTQ community, and any other underrepresented minorities. I know that we want our spaces to be spaces that people come escape that. But we have to have courage in our convictions, and when we come to the aid and when necessary, the defense of our communities, they will eventually return that favor when they have the means. I'm Ashley Dunn Gatterdam, and I'm running for office. Okay, so if you thought that you were going to come to a 2-day boot camp about the arts and not hear about the horror show in the White House, this one's for you. This looks like it is just a cute dog email, but the first line that you probably cannot read is, this is Dallas. Her human is preparing to steal our hearts. It is a photo from the newsfeed of the mezzo-soprano starring in their upcoming production of the Threepenny Opera. This is a relevant sales message disguised as a fun piece of content. This one was really just an excuse to show a photo of my beagle. She really wanted me to stop working on this presentation and feed her. I think that Amanda and my little 4-legged kids would be friends. Okay, anticipate events that might be frustrating to ticket buyers. Have a big on sale day coming up or an event that is going to generate a ton of interest. Use email to set expectations for what could be a negative experience. So this particular one is encouraging folks to get all their ducks in a row in advance so they don't have any problems logging in when tickets go on sale for Fall for Dance, when there's like a run on tickets. Sometimes you have to do that after the fact. This falls into that category of just own your mistakes. Think of how you've appreciated when brands have engaged with you when they have messed up. We are often really resistant to doing this in our organizations, and I have some theories on that we don't have time for today. One final thought on relevancy. 34% of consumers said they get frustrated when brands recommend items that don't match their interest, and 40% of consumers wish that email was less promotional and more informative. It's up to us to build the infrastructure and dedicate the necessary creative resources to hold up our end of that email bargain, just as we started to get really good at doing for social. So this is, again, another concept that we typically talk about with social, but that we should start applying to email. This actually answers the question that somebody asked yesterday about the balance of their email content versus sales messages. So essentially this is do that 70% fun part right, and you earn the right to do the 30% sales part. In other words, give, ask. There are 2 ways to accomplish this, 2 ways that I could think of. Either aiming for the 70-30 mix in the body of an email, like this one from Caramore that takes up space for a meaningful and inspiring quote. Inspire and delight. Remember, this is a really easy way to do that. Like, this is literally just a Google search for a quote from Plato. Or aiming for that mix in your email calendars, like this one example of totally 70% fun content from National Ballet of Canada, telling me that World Ballet Day is now live. If you missed it, it was about like a week or 2 ago. I was talking to a friend the other day who creates social content in another industry, and she was just floored to hear that so many of our clients feel strapped for content when they would really trade their left arm for our assets. So think about what you have. Spend some time in your old files and see if there are just great photos that you can send out. Okay, new topic. We don't have a lot of time today to really dive into what makes a great email template. Also, Michael Barber talked about this a lot in his presentation 1 year ago. Nor am I particularly qualified to do that, considering that our extraordinary graphic designer, Megan, where are you? She's not in here. Had to touch up most of my presentation. But here are a few things to keep in mind. Okay, remember that slide from the beginning of my presentation about all the places that we check email? This doesn't even include the expected or typical ones, like sitting at my desktop in my office. So ideally, we want to be creating responsive templates in our email, just like we do for our websites. So the user experience is great regardless of what device they are opening your emails on. But for most of you, you'll want to just start with designing for a mobile-first world. Again, mobile still claims the majority of email opens. And while mobile-friendly emails generally look good on desktop, the opposite is rarely true. Notice that I said most of you, as these stats come from global market trends, and it's really important to use your own data to optimize your designs. At capacity, just 2% of our emails are opened on mobile devices, which hopefully means that none of you guys are reading those on your vacations, and that's a really good thing. So, 5 quick tips. This is certainly not an exhaustive list, but it's some of my favorites, and it's a good place to start. First, be concise and use white space. Attention spans are short. It's hard to read dense paragraphs of text on mobile. 2, use a single column layout. If you aren't creating responsive templates, avoid that double column feature as it requires a lot of pinching and zooming. That should just be like tip number 6, no pinching and zooming. 3, use fat thumb friendly calls to action. You've heard this one before. Don't give me a teeny tiny hyperlink and 5 of them stacked on top of each other when I don't have a mouse. 4, increase the font size, just make it easier to read. Our eyeballs are getting older. 5, be conscious of image use. This is really just thinking about what that average screen size is right now and how much of that you're going to take up with your header image, what that experience is going to be like above the fold. And if I have a bad connection or a phone that defaults to not show images, is my experience of your email still going to be okay? This is just one great example. A whole promo box fits into a single screen. The call to action is super cute. I do want to be a STEM champion. It's separated from any others, and the headline and copy is really concise. There's lots of white space. I just really like this email a lot. Thank you, Yosef, for that screenshot. This one is not unique to mobile, but it is important to make sure that your emails are scannable. So I might be opening your email for the first time while standing in line at the grocery store, and I'll quickly decide if it's something to save for later or to delete. That number of 11 seconds is somewhat skewed by the rise in media emails like the skim, which provide a lot of content in the email that doesn't require clicking through. So the key really is to remember the goldfish brain, and actually to make sure that your email can be scanned in about 3 seconds, which is about the amount of time that we typically spend scanning a web page to know if we've landed in the right place. So aim for 3, and if you get lucky, you'll get a full 11 seconds of their attention. OK, did I skip one? Nope. If you've worked with us or seen our team speak before, you know how we feel about the power of storytelling on social and how it has moved to an almost entirely visual experience through photos and video. Email isn't any different, and you have much more space to tell that story here. The sad reality is that we simply do not like to read anymore. A visual story is engaging and highly scannable, and if you'll remember, the 3rd biggest reason that people did not repeat donate in the following 24 months is because we did not tell them what we were doing with their money. Charity Water does this exceptionally well. She spoke at our boot camp again, God, I've blacked out last year, 2 years ago. So again, make a small donation there and just start to steal all of their really great communication efforts. This is an easy one. It's real easy. You can write this one down. Please look at the preview text on the last email that you sent out. If it is encouraging me to opt out of your mailings, maybe fix that one first thing Monday morning. Sorry, primary stages. I don't know if you guys are here. We've all done this, though. OK, we talked about making calls to action fat thumb friendly, but while you're at it, consider making that action sound a little bit more appealing. Our brilliant marketing director, Chrissy Packer, right in front of me, created this call to action generator that you can find on Capacity Interactive's website. So instead of read more or learn more or the things that are encouraging me to click here to get my broccoli, maybe that says, let's wait to find out. Take me there. Intrigued. Well, yes, I am. That's on our website. Remember that you are speaking to humans. Don't spend all your energy on the visual design of your emails and forget about the copy. Remember that human beings with hearts and minds are reading your emails, so please write like one. Who does not want to make miracles happen? Notice, by the way, that it does not say, help us make miracles happen. Most of us want to be the miracle maker. Have fun with GIFs, GIFs. If you've never tried embedding that thing or an HTML5 video in your email, see if your provider supports this and A/B test it against static images to see if it increases click-through rates. Again, this is all about testing. Nothing in here is gospel, except for design for mobile first. OK, the magic formula for subject lines. Everybody's favorite. I'm going to make it so that you never have to A/B test again. Did you really think that was coming? There is no one-size-fits-all approach here, just like all things digital. Well, there is some research that says subject lines between 1 and 20 characters generated a 31% higher open rate than the average, based on analysis of more than 7 billion emails sent in Q2 of 2017. So it's not nothing. Personalized subject lines generated 50% higher open rates. We saw a version of that stat earlier before, and that one actually is true. But again, remember how we talked about how Capacity's mobile open rates were 2% compared to an average of 51% from a litmus study? So use information like this to guide your analysis and your experimentation and A/B testing. For example, we discovered that for National Ballet of Canada, marketing emails, as in not content that was fundraising or education, et cetera, with price or urgency in the subject line had the strongest open rates. All the ones that are bolded are sort of just me calling out the fact that it's a price or urgency message. That makes sense. One of the things that we promised people when they signed up was offers and news. I'm so sorry for people taking photos. I have so many slides. So a slide is missing here. Oh, wait. However, marketing emails with content and or celebrity, so for them like casting or the artistic director in the subject line, drove more clicks to the website despite having some open rates on the lower end, so drove a lot more traffic. So our recommendation to NBC, our tip here is to use the right KPI when A/B testing or simply analyzing the results of a campaign based on the objective of that email. So if my goal is to announce on sale dates, but my tickets are not yet on sale, my KPI in that instance is a really high open rate, lots of impressions, right? But if my tickets are on sale now and I have the casting announced on my website, my KPI is a really strong click-through rate. I want people to come at that point and take an action. Okay, that leads to our next topic, measurement and optimization. I'm going to assume that most of you are familiar with open, click, and conversion rates, so I'm not going to spend time on that, but let's briefly chat about some of the others. CTOR, click to open rate. If you don't measure this, consider adding it to your mix. This is the percentage of emails opened that were clicked, so how well are openers actually engaging? Again, they might be reading your email and not clicking through to your website, so you have to put all of this stuff into context. Bounce rate, the percentage of undeliverable email. So this is split into two categories, hard and soft. Hard bounce happens when an email address is wrong typically, and those should be removed immediately. A lot of email providers do that for you automatically. Soft bounce means that there's a temporary delivery problem, like my inbox is super full, I might have 9,020 emails. I'm trying really hard not to look at the person who's screenshot that. Though addresses that have multiple soft bounces over time should really be removed to keep your list clean. List growth and unsubscribe rate. So again, don't just spit out a report of this every month. I'm saying that with that tone of voice because that's exactly what I was asked to do when I worked at an organization. Use these KPIs to look for patterns. Is there certain content that triggers high unsubscribe rates? Is there a seasonality to your list growth, and can you take advantage of that or help understand why it's so low at other times of years, and there's something that you can do to lift that? Two super quick and technical tips here that you can start doing right away. One is to use UTM parameters. This helps tell Google Analytics more information about the data that's coming to your site, or sorry, the source and where those people have come from before they've come to your site. A lot of providers will allow you to do that with auto tagging, but if not, Google offers a free campaign URL builder. You can search for it, Google search, Google URL builder. Second, use a consistent naming convention for your campaign names. So I can then export that data from WordFry and from Google Analytics, and I can use the text-to-column feature in Excel to make it easier to analyze that data with pivot tables. So this really lets me cut all of that data down to the particular show, the season, the type of email that it was, and then the actual content that was in it. I did this manually for NBC with 2 years of email data, so that's why this recommendation is in here. Okay. I could spend literally all day on what to do with that data once you have collected it, but we only have time for a couple of examples. So I've pulled some interesting ones from NBC's Audit. Can somebody quickly remember what time I'm supposed to be done? I have 5 minutes right now. Oh my God. Okay. You always want to start with a good question, so here's one. Most emails that NBC had sent in that fiscal year were sent between 2 and 4 p.m. The only emails sent after 9 were post-show thank you emails, but with the exception of those, open and click-through rates stayed fairly average throughout the day. So left-hand side, email sent. No, sorry, this is all of their time of day. I'm looking at the next slide. So our recommendation was experiment with sending sales emails during lunch and content emails early in the morning or late at night. Again, not gospel, it's our recommendation to them. Next, what is the ideal day of the week? Notice that the majority of their sales and content emails were sent Tuesdays and Thursdays. That was just from information that they had previously about best day of the week. Very few sales or sales emails were sent on Saturday and Sundays and no content. On the other slide though, again, we see open rates remain fairly steady throughout the week, kind of peaking on Saturdays. So we recommended that they try to reach people in all those micro moments throughout their lives, like standing in line waiting for your brunch reservation on the weekend. That's a really good time for me to click through and watch a video. No matter what you do, don't send out that first email and then give up if it doesn't work. Resend it to non-openers, maybe trying a different day of week or time of day, as in the 2 prior examples. In this hypothetical, even if that second email gets lower open, click, and conversion rates, it's still 61% more clicks and 53% more revenue than doing nothing at all. Oh my God, I'm in the last section. Growing your list. Okay. Last topic of the day, but the most important. In our last benchmark study, 88% of you said lead collection was important, and if I have accomplished anything today, this number will be closer to 100% the next time that we conduct this survey, and that is because leads are your best asset. They are past and future audience members who have told you that they care so much about the work that you do, they literally want you to market to them. The good news is, 14% might not sound like a huge number here. We saw growth across all of these organizations in our 2016 benchmark study. But that's pretty tremendous growth for a channel that has been around in some form since the 90s, really earlier than that, but like actual adoption since the 90s and the rise of the internet. That was true across organizations of all sizes, so this is not tied to the size of your budget. It doesn't take money to get your box office treasurer to ask for email addresses at point of sale. It might take a very good bottle of bourbon. The easiest place to start to collect these leads is shopping from your own closet. If you're not doing this already, do it on your website. Those users are already giving you a form of permission by coming to you, so this is a great opportunity to ask them if they want to be more connected. This is a screenshot of Lidacity on Jazz at Lincoln Center's website. That's a plugin that we developed a couple of years ago to help increase conversion rates for lead collection, which tend to be pretty low from those little tiny asks in the corner of the header or footer of our sites. If you're interested, you can sign up on our website for a free 30-day trial. That is the one and only sales pitch that you're going to get from me today, Lidacity. Remember that the lead collection form or pop-up on social is a great moment to make a good first impression. This tells me what kind of voice this company has, and it's both funny and helpful. I have to start skipping some things. Beyond your website, probably the second best place to be collecting leads right now is Facebook. This example from our client, University Musical Society, is a lead collection campaign encouraging Facebook users to join the list to hear about upcoming simulcasts. One of the huge advantages of using those lead collection forms on Facebook is that the fields are auto-filled with the information that I've used to create my Facebook profile, so this is a very frictionless experience. The other huge advantage is it's really cost-effective, so if UMS's average order value is just $5 or $50, I only need to convert 5 of those 69 new leads in order to break even on this campaign. It's a pretty easy one. Think about what content or experiences you're already giving away that you could use as a lead generation opportunity. I'm repaying American Natural History Museum here by showing their cute contest or quiz that they did on Instagram for a chance to win a free decal. So I click through to take the quiz. Notice at this point I've gone to their website, so even if I fail to complete this step and provide a lead, I'm now in their remarketing pools. And of course, at the end of that, the way that I get my free decal is to provide my contact information, obviously. Okay, we truly are coming to the end. I might not have time for questions, and I'm super sorry, but lunch is right after this, and also you can shoot me an email. Let's say that we've done our absolute best to send anticipated, personal, and relevant email, and our bounce rates are high, or our open rates are low, and some people just don't seem to give a shit. It happens, people move on, and we have to let them go. So if this isn't something that you've automated or that you've manually done recently, add a re-engagement campaign to your list for next week. It's really important to keep your list clean and full of mostly engaged users. It keeps you from getting flagged as a bad sender. Plus, there's no point in maintaining a massive database of leads who aren't really there. Not everyone unsubscribes. Sometimes we simply stop reading your emails, or we change email addresses to avoid those 9,020 unread emails. So you want to occasionally be unsubscribing those folks from your list. And here's just one example of how to do that. I'm going to not walk through all of those, and you can take a photo and also you get the deck later. Okay, but this is an example of a re-engagement campaign. This is an email I received from United Way after not engaging with their emails for a few months. It asked me to choose what matters most to me from 3 options, and when I clicked through on education, it was actually a sneaky re-engagement email, and then I actually spent some time reading the content, so it won't be weird when they email me in a week about their education efforts. So those first 2 nudges of like, here's a good piece of content, do you still want to hear from us? Those 2 can kind of be cheeky. But your third one cannot be vague. You need to tell them exactly what is going to happen if they don't engage. They may just have not been paying close enough attention to those first 2. So we learned last summer during NBC's email audit just how important this last step is in Canada, where the anti-spam legislation is much stricter than ours here in the US. They're required to get express consent, in other words, an actual opt-in from a ticket buyer, at some point in the 2 years after their purchase in order to keep them on their list. Otherwise, they have to remove the email address on that 2-year mark. But before you start feeling too bad for Canada, remember that they have this. Honestly, why can't we have nice things? Oh, God. One final thought, collecting a lead doesn't only mean that you have gotten permission to email someone. It's now possible to target those users on your CRM list on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and actually Gmail. Not only does this give one of your most bottom funnel audiences a chance to see and share your great content regardless of what channel they happen to be in at that moment, but it also increases your reach and conversion rates. This screenshot is from a campaign that we ran on Facebook for a client, and we saw a 1,600% ROI just from that audience segment. It's a second up from the funnel after add to cart at the bottom. In fact, email openers who saw ads in this study with Salesforce and Facebook were 22% more likely to purchase from that 2-touch effort. Of the 500,000 people on the list they uploaded, 18% only opened the email, an additional 27% only saw a Facebook newsfeed ad, and 16% of the list saw both. So when reached with ads, they were 22% more likely, and it extended their email campaign reach by 77%. So if you have open rates that are hovering around 20 to 30 or 40%, that's 70 to 80% of your list that isn't seeing your messages, and this means that you can reach them somewhere else. I literally might have time for like one question, right? Okay. Let's just look at that.
I hope this isn't off topic. It shouldn't be. But can you describe characteristics of a good opt-in campaign?
Of a good opt-in campaign. I talked about a couple. I think making a good ask, doing it in the voice of your organization, using something that is really going to make somebody want to sign up. So for UMS, like that actually is the way that you're going to hear about the actual simulcast performances and when they're going to, I think they're like the first people, Sam can answer this. It's how you first hear about the dates for those and when they go on sale. And then again, it's all of the things that happen after that. So it's really important to not just like do the ask really well and spend a ton of money and run all these leads out on Facebook and then never do anything with them. So that hello email is super, super important to perfect there and immediate if you can. Also, I'm not going to recommend email platforms, so please don't ask me that. Use whatever integrates with your CRM. If you use Tessitura, go talk to Wordfly in the lobby.
Hi, you mentioned a couple things that really interested me, and that was about siloed departments and fundraising.
Yeah.
About unsubscribed on fundraising emails. Do you have any advice for, like, am I the only one who hears about my fundraising department or my development department wanting to do asks of single ticket buyers?
Yeah, I have some thoughts. It literally starts with breaking down those silos. It is relationship building inside your organization. That is the only way that you're going to be successful in those efforts. I think it also is data, sitting down with your development department and really walking through what happens. Like when we showed this to NBC, when we went through that audit, everybody was horrified. Development, marketing, the whole team, right? Because nobody wants to lose a lead. So I think it's starting to look back at like a year's worth of data and seeing if you can understand if anything like that is happening to you and using that as a place to start that conversation. have a lot of love for fundraising departments. What you guys do is very hard. And I also think that like in email particularly, we actually have a lot to learn in marketing departments from the way that fundraising and development teams have always been really good at that interpersonal communication in a way that we're often sort of fire hosing out to a giant room. Great, that's it. Thank you all so much.